Hi everybody, this is Human with BareMods, the iPhone experts, where we specialize in everything in iPhone modifications, parts, information, everything. Exciting video, iPhone 5 Black, 32 gig, still sealed. Okay? This is going to be a video about disassembly of the iPhone 5, and the following video after this is going to be assembly of a modified, blinged out, custom iPhone chassis with blinged out keys. First, we have to get the disassembly down, and for this video, the parts that you're going to need, first of all, don't do this without a screw mat, please. Pictorial representations of where all the screws go. This is a very complete screw mat. Has just about every screw position here, and the nice thing also is that they show you the order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then reverse to put it back together again. This really helps you, and it takes a lot of the guesswork out, and it just makes it so much easier. The first time I did this, I was able to, with the screw mat's help, do a successful modification. First time out, no problems. The construction, the design, and everything of the iPhone 5 is similar somewhat to the iPhone 3, and it's just so much nicer than the 4 series because changing an LCD on this guy is just so much easier. So we are breaking the seal. We're actually doing this together, guys. Yes, I just bought an iPhone 5. This is an unlocked version, paid full price. Probably gonna end up putting this on eBay or something. So here we go, voila, and brand new. And yes, I am going to take this thing apart, believe it or not. So we'll put that box aside. Okay, so there's the plastic on there. I'm gonna have to take it out because I'm gonna have to spudge this thing open. So I'll probably leave the back on because I really don't need this back portion for the modification. So the bottom has 2 pentalobe screws, similar to all the 4 series. And I'm going to just unscrew this. And guys, the mid frames, even on the mods, I think they're anodized or powder coated. I mean, they scratch super easy. So be careful on all of them. So 2 pentalobe screws on the bottom, and put those on the corresponding spot on the screw mat. That's what it's good for. Now, there's no screws holding this down, so we need a suction cup. I got this rinky-dinky one. It may not work. It's probably not going to, so you might have to pry a little bit, but let me pull on this to the best of my abilities. Hopefully I can get a little bit of a wedge and squeeze my spudger in there, but the last time, there it goes. This one cooperated. So suction cup is a must. You don't really want to pry these things because a lot of people pry the iPhone 3s and they did all kinds of damage and, pry marks. I'm changing the LCD on this, so I'm not too concerned about the body, even though I want to keep it for future use. So I'm just going to now get this. It's a little in there, but I'm going to use my fingers. Okay, here we go. So take this off. Alright, so there we go. Now be careful, there's 3 screws right here, and they're Phillips, and that's going to release the LCD, and that's what makes this thing so much easier to change. You don't have to take out the logic board to take out the LCD, but in this particular case, we're going to disassemble the whole thing for modification of the chassis. So let's take these Phillips screws out. It's 3 simple screws. And if you're doing an LCD replacement, at this point, you're almost done, believe it or not. You just take these 3 screws out, disconnect the connectors. There's an EMI shield here, and that's about it. Screws are not wanting to be cooperative. So you'll need some tongs too. Tongs are your friend. Okay, so this EMI shield, and by the way guys, this was off. It was dead right out. So it's not live, but if yours was on, please, I always forget to tell people this, turn it off before you start working on it. Alright, so with my plastic spudger, and we sell a lot of these tools on our website, I'm going to pop open these flex cables. Okay, there goes the one on top. And then there's another one below it. And that one already came out. Okay, so there's our LCD. We're going to hang on to this for just a second. Later we're going to modify the home button on that. So. Got my screws on my screw mat. Okay, so we're going to have to disconnect the battery now. So we do want this to be dead while we're working on it. And this is the only thing I don't like about this design, is that on the iPhone 4 you could just immediately pop the battery off with one screw. On this you have these two shields here that you need to open up, and that releases the battery. So I'm going to go ahead and do those. That's not in order of what the screw mat says, but because I like to work according to best practices, I'm going to disable the power on this while I'm working on it. So those three. And these are two different, these shields come off in two pieces. This goes underneath the one on top of it. So I'm going to put these in a little bin here. You can put them on your screw mat too. So here is our battery connector. There's nothing else holding that battery down. So now I'm going to pop open this flex connector. Okay, so the unit is now dead. Alright. Since I'm doing a mid-frame modification, if you're doing repairs, I mean, you can take the battery out, you can leave it in, it's up to you. The battery really doesn't get in the way of a lot in this particular design, because you can get to other components. You can change the LCD without the battery, but I'm moving everything out into a new mid-frame. So I'm going to spudge this just like the 4s from this side. That's a brand new unit, so it's going to be a little sticky, and there comes our battery. So there we go. Okay. So now we're going to go in the order of the screw mat, and the screw mat says to take out these screws right here. So I'm going to take out where this shield is. There's one screw, and then there's another here where the shield is. We're looking right there. And let's see here, the shield should be, I believe it should be loose now. So there's that shield that came out. And don't worry guys, it's really hard to kind of put them back wrong. So, and there's another screw, it's kind of tucked underneath the camera. Just be careful and get that guy out. And just, you know, this isn't real confusing. Just follow the screw mat. The screw mat's great because, you know, it shows me, you know, where everything goes. Okay, so we have those screws out. Now, we've already gotten these steps out, but I'm going to be taking out the logic board assembly completely. So there's the GSM antenna connector is right here. I'm going to just pop that out with my tongs very carefully. Usually grab it by the wires connector and just kind of pull up, and that wire comes out and it's out of the way. That's part of the interface assembly down here. The interface assembly has a lot more on this one. It has the headphone connector, has your interface, it has your speaker, microphone, all of that. It has a lot more built in to one assembly, which makes it easier to work on because, you know, they put in a lot more parts in one thing. So now I'm going to start to remove the components for the logic board, okay? And there's a flex cable here, and there's a flex here, and there's a couple of flexes that are long, and I believe these act as antennas. They just kind of come all the way around. We're gonna have to pop one open and get it out of the way. There's a screw underneath here that we need to get at. So I'm going to start removing the special screws. On the upper right corner, below the camera, there is a two-sided screw, and this particular screw, or the screw mat, doesn't really have a spot for this because they're not really going this deep with it, but we are. So we're going to go ahead and put it in its approximate position where it belongs on the screw mat. Just because it doesn't have a place for it, don't freak out. You just put it in approximately where it goes. So there's a flex right here. I'm going to pop this flex open. There's a flex down here. And, you know, I should be using the plastic spudger, but I kind of use the tongs a little bit because the spudger tends to hit parts it's not supposed to, but if you're careful it won't. Okay, so this is the interface flex. So I move this. I really don't want to touch the back of this too much because I don't want to lose this, you know, stickiness to it. Okay, there's another two-sided screw here. Okay, that came out, and I'm going to put it approximately in its spot again, which is right about here. I'll remember where that is. There's a couple other screws. Oh, there's another special screw here. Put it in this approximate spot. And I think the guys at Screw Mat did it this way because, you know, most people are doing minor repairs. We're doing a pretty major overhaul here, so we're taking out a lot more than most people do. Okay, so this screw is marked on the screw mat, middle right. So this is what's cool about the screw mat, is that, you know, it's showing me places still that screws I haven't out yet. So, you know, there's still pieces of the puzzle to go, so it's definitely helpful. Alright, so now there is a screw right here. There's one right here in the middle. Right there, if you can see that. That guy is covered a little bit by this. I don't like pushing or putting force against flex cables. All you have to do is pop two of these up. There's a flex right there. I'm gonna pop that up a little bit, and then there's another flex right here. Pop that up, and all you gotta do is pop it up a little bit and move it over, because it's on another circular, like a nipple connector, so they'll turn a little bit. So then I can take this screw out. Not too bad. I leave one side in because I don't want to assemble any more than I absolutely have to. Okay, at this point I can see my SIM card. They had a SIM in there, didn't know that. But you need to take your SIM tray out anyway. Little SIM ejector, handy tool. Okay, and out comes our nano SIM. Alright, and now there's our SIM ejector mechanism right here. We want to remove that. That has a special screw. It's kind of like a mushroom screw, and you don't want to confuse that with other screws. So I'm going to take that out. Screw mat has a spot for that, fortunately. And I'm going to grab with my tongs my SIM ejector, and I'm going to put it in my parts bin. Okay, and just doing a quick visual, make sure I didn't miss anything. And now, again, when you're removing logic boards, guys, do not be in a rush, do not force anything, because there are parts under here that will break, and let the iPhone talk to you. So I'm just there is actually an antenna here. This is our Wi-Fi antenna. It's very, very thin, and it will break in a heartbeat. And we don't really have replacement parts yet for that. So, okay, so now I just kind of felt a little bit, and I realized that there's 2 screws up here, and they're indicated on the screw mat too. There's 2 screws here that I haven't removed yet. So, if I would have just tugged on it, I would have broken something. So, do not force anything. Everything on an iPhone comes out on its own when it's ready. And when you kind of get used to doing this, you'll kind of feel it. And like when I say it talks to you, it really does. Okay, so those screws are out at the top. Just kind of give it a little wiggle. Okay, so there's the camera right here. It's going to come up with it. And oh so gently. Missed 1 screw. See, so that's exactly what I mean. There's a screw right here in the camera to the left of the upper left part of the camera that I missed. So I'm going to take that out and pop that over here. Okay, and I just kind of felt it out and to see what it was telling me. Okay, now the flash comes loose here, and it's right next to the camera. So also there's a little metal bracket underneath there that just came loose after I popped that open. Let me pop open the flash. Okay. This is the little bracket that holds that flash in. Okay, so now I'm going to turn the logic board over like this. And I'm not going to take it out yet because, and this is why I told you to be careful, because right there is the connector, similar to the one on the bottom, but it's much thinner wire, really thin wire, and that's for the Wi-Fi antenna. And if you break that, you're just going to have to somehow put it back together again. So I'm just going to carefully take that off. Okay. So now we have our beautiful iPhone 5 logic board with A6 processor. Now the camera on these guys, take a look here. The camera is not, it's detachable, but it has a little shield over it, and it has 2 screws holding it. So we really don't need to disconnect the camera like we do on the iPhone 4s. And here's the flash right here next to it. So we're just going to leave those intact because we'll just pop them back in place when we need to. I have a little bucket here that I put, all of my parts in, just to keep things organized. Now I'm going to proceed with removing the interface connector. So there's this thing's a little bit tricky. It has some flex cables wrapping around, so we just want to make sure that we do this right. So there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screws indicated on the screw mat to take this out. And I usually don't like to edit these videos, and I know if you're watching them, you're like, why is he making us watch, him remove screws? The reason for that is that I like people to work along with me, because if I'm just editing everything and everything's going whiz by, it's hard for people to learn what it is that I'm showing them to do. Okay, so now the interface, the assembly here comes. This is actually a speaker unit, speaker buzzer unit, whatever. Everyone calls it something different. And I'm going to kind of wiggle this up, and then there is a connector that comes around the headphones that we don't want to break. It's just kind of stuck on here. Okay, you see that? This part is on the headphone jack. This little flex cable, it kind of wraps around and sits on the corner of the speaker unit. So I took that out, and now there is also this is the home button contact here, and underneath, and again, this is why please don't pull. Okay, there is this is stuck onto the speaker unit. So if I just pull this out right now, it's going to tear that out. So I don't want to do that. Now you could unstick it or just move it out of the way. I don't like to unstick anything as much as possible. I like to leave everything as intact as possible. So you could just kind of leave this in place and pull up on this interface. Let me see if I can show you here. I'm pulling up here slowly, very slowly. There's little resistors and stuff on here that can break so easily. And then I'm going to kind of get this to, be careful, don't pry any resistors off. I've actually done that. Well, I can take off the microphone connector here. So that's connected to the body. We can pry off our headphone connector gently. There's a little bit of adhesive here on the bottom. And I'm being very gentle here, guys. I just don't want to mess anything up. Okay, so I'm going to continue pulling. The reason I did that side and then went back is because I don't want to create tension as I'm pulling onto the thinner pieces of flex. I don't want to put any pressure to the point where it's going to rip. Okay, and everything is just stuck on here at this point. It's just all adhesive. And I know I'm putting my fingers on this, but kind of have no choice. Alright, so there is our flex assembly along with our speaker unit still stuck together, and I'm trying not to handle the back too much because it's still sticky. So we're going to put this aside, and we're going to install this in the new mid-frame all together. It's just going to save us time, and the name of the game, guys, is time. You want to save as much as possible if you're doing this professionally. If you're doing it for yourself, take your time. Take all the time in the world. Better safe than sorry. You know, but if you're a pro or even a beginner, I keep a bag of extra parts. I've broken things before and I've had to replace them, so it's nice to have some iPhone 5 parts, and all the parts are sold on our website. So now let's take out the vibrator motor. Okay, there's a screw there. These are indicated on the screw mat. The screw here a little bit fatter, wider screw. Okay. And I'm just doing a quick check. There's a screw here on the side. I'm going to put that in its approximate place because that's for the silencer and the volume keys. They're screwed here on the side, similar to where it was on the iPhone, or how it was on the iPhone 4S. So there's about 3 screws there. And it's pretty self-explanatory because you can see the bracket. Okay. So now there's also another screw up here for the vibrator motor, and once we get this screw out, it should come out. Okay. And here's our vibrator motor. Okie doke, we're moving right along. There's another screw there on the power button, and the bracket on the 5 is nice because it kind of has a like a, not a hinge, but it just kind of tucks underneath on one side, and it has one screw that holds one side on, which I like because it's easy to put it back. So, okay folks, so to take out the power and volume, all of this now is one flex cable, not 2 like the 4S or the 4. It's one flex cable, and the flex is extremely thin right here. So you guys want to be extremely careful because it comes around and it goes up to the power, and right here it is so super thin. I mean, you could break this so freaking easy. So I'm just going to give this a little push and get our keys out. And the silence switch is over, I think, sitting over the volume bracket. Okay, and these are all on flex cables that are stuck to the chassis. So I'm going to pry out the volume first, and then the silencer second. Give it a very careful tug. Okay, so I always work from side to side. Now let's push our volume button. Now it's kind of tucks under, there's like a little lever on the right side. So if you take one side and kind of jiggle it down, it will release from where it's tucked underneath. And there's a little sponge here too, you may have to either remove or kind of wiggle loose. But another thing you can do is start pulling the flex cable until we meet up where the power is. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get myself a little bit of playroom here. Oh, there's the adhesive separated. Okay, I'm just pulling up very carefully the flex. These guys want to be a little bit stubborn. I'm just going to try to unstick this a little bit just to get myself a little bit of playroom. Okay, so I pulled it up. Now I have a little bit of room to wiggle this down. Okay, hopefully I didn't do any damage. Yeah, okay, so looks like we're good. Here comes your power button. And my volume key and my silencer key already came out. Keep those. We'll need them later. Okay, so this is out on this side. And then we're going to very carefully pull up a little bit Now there's two contact switches here where the vibrator motor went, and it's stuck on a little harder than the rest of it. So that's out. Also, if you turn this thing upside down, there's little metal washers. They kind of stick to the chassis a little bit. We want to keep those, or they might stick to the battery sticker. These go where the interface goes back, so we need to keep those for the future. They look like very thin, round washers. There's 4 of them, and they're on the center. Okay, so I got my washers set aside, and they're really like light, and if you blow them, they'll fly away. Now there's a Wi-Fi antenna right here, and I'm going to carefully remove that. And if it's stubborn, which this one's being, just take your flathead screwdriver and just kind of pry one side a little bit, just to get it to come up. And try not to dig into the flex cable, but underneath it into the adhesive. I'm just taking my time, guys, because like I said, better safe than sorry. Okay, there is our Wi-Fi flex with this extremely thin wire that breaks so easily. So, silencer key. Okay, so now we have our bare chassis. There are still a couple components that are not going to be on our replacement mid-frame, and there's a little plastic interface down here where the microphone goes, and a little like plastic insulator where the speaker goes. It's the opposite on the 4S, but we usually have to change those anyway. And in the center there's a little plastic piece that the 8-pin connector goes into. Just kind of it's like a sleeve. Okay, so our microphone plastic interface is there. You can take that out. Try to preserve as much of the adhesive as possible, but if you got some silicone glue, you can always put a dab on the new chassis, but we'll get there when we start working on that. So I'm going to take the center sleeve out. I'm going to need that. Our mid-frames do not come with a center sleeve. I'm going to pry on the inside of it. It's stuck in there a little bit. Just kind of on either side, and it's not really glued, just other than the bottom, but that's the sleeve. Okay. And then I'm going to try to not break this piece right here to the right, because it's kind of sensitive, it's thin. Try to keep as much of that adhesive as I can. It just doesn't want to come out. Alright, so there you go. It's still kind of sticky. Okay, so I'll do a quick check. There's some pieces here on the right, little brackets. So there's that bracket right there. Put it back on screw mount so I know where it went. And there's another bracket. Put that on the mat. Okay, so looks like we have a couple of other brackets over here on the other side. Put it in a approximate position. And it seems like so convoluted, but if you just follow the screw mat, it's not too bad. You just kind of have to remember what you did before, but I guess that's what separates the pros from the amateurs. It's your ability to put it back together again. Taking it apart's the easy part. Okay guys, I'm doing a quick check, yes, there is a little metal piece right here that I believe the Wi-Fi antenna kind of pops into, and I have to take that out because it's not on the replacement. And that looks like this. Back. And you can kind of put everything back on the screw mat where it belongs. So this is a bare frame now. The next video will be assembling all of the parts that we just took out into a custom blinged out frame. So if you have any questions, feel free to email us at sales@baremods.com. Website's www.baremods.com, BareMods. Information's on the YouTube page as well. And if you need anything, let us know, and please make sure to subscribe for videos coming up in the future. We're always doing them. Thanks.